Howdy, y'all. You're listening to the Point of View podcast, an in-depth look behind the minds of creators on social media with your host, Travis Fuentes. And we're live. Welcome to another episode of the Point of View podcast. I am here with someone that I've never met, but it's an awesome pleasure to have him on here for the first time ever. He hails from Chicago, Illinois, Windy City. Mr. Colton Bachar. How you doing, Colton?
Nice. Doing good, man. Doing good. Thank you for having me on. I'm super stoked to.
This is so freaking cool, man.
Yeah.
This is cool to have somebody like you on this side because, like I've had a lot of guests in the Texas scene or the countryside of it, but you're on a completely different spectrum. But it's so cool to see and learn with creatives from other sides. So this is going to be 100%. A learning experience for me, but also for a lot of other viewers and listeners. So I'm excited to have you on here, dude.
Yeah, dude. I'm stoked to just cut it up. I think you'll be able to ask a lot of unique questions that will help people who maybe are not in the scene, or maybe just do something slightly different.
Mm-hmm.
Kind of give them a little bit of an inside look. And then I'm super stoked to just see how I can provide value, not only to you, but just anyone that listens. I'm going to try and even if you ask me something personally, I am going to try and figure out a way to help someone else, whether that's a mindset thing, a technical thing, whatever. So
yeah, for sure. Anytime. And then at the end of the day, we're all creative. So we all have the same goals as anybody else.
Absolutely.
So you're from Chicago. Wait, did you move to Chicago or are you from Chicago?
Yeah. So this is a long story, but I'm originally from a town called Brookings, South Dakota.
Okay.
Yeah. So town of it's 23,000 without a college. We have the D1 college, SDSU Jackrabbits.
Mm-hmm.
With the college, about 35,000. Yeah, so not crazy small, not crazy big, especially for South Dakota.
Yeah.
But we lived out in the country, so didn't really ever grow up in a city or anything like that. But yeah.
How far is it to, I guess, Sioux Falls?
Sioux Falls. So I'm an hour north of Sioux Falls.
Okay, yeah. Nice. And how far is that from Deadwood?
Deadwood? Oh, man. So, South Dakota is a massive state, and we're on the far east side. So,
okay.
To get to Deadwood is 6.5, 7 hours.
Damn, dude.
Yeah, that's probably with speeding.
I've had a couple friends that go out to Deadwood for, I guess, the rodeo stuff that they do out there. There's always a whole week that they do live music and stuff. And yeah, that's pretty cool.
Deadwood's super dope.
Yeah. I heard it's freaking gorgeous out there.
Oh yeah, it's because you got another thing you probably need to know about South Dakota is it's split diagonally by the Missouri River, and on the east side of the river it's super flat. You can see forever, and it's just corn and beans, and that's it. Nothing else. It's like if Nebraska grew beans, it's just it's nothing but beans and corn. And then on the west side of the river, you have Yellowstone, you have Mount Rushmore, you have the Badlands, you have the Black Hills. It's just a gorgeous, everything on that side of the river is just amazing in terms of just natural beauty and whatnot.
Is it kind of regionalized? There's a lot of different areas or different parts that you see in the state?
Yeah. Because you have the prairies, you have the mountains, and then you kind of have the east side is kind of odd because you start to get into Minnesota, and Minnesota's kind of boring too. No shade on Minnesota, but yeah, it's just it's a weird no man's land where you can just drive forever in a straight line, and they literally made the speed limit 80 miles an hour. By my house.
Yeah, that's pretty normal here in Texas. So
yeah.
So you went to school out there in North Dakota or South Dakota? Sorry.
No. So grew up, went to high school, all that stuff. Then I've always been like pretty ambitious, or just like I've always been like a dreamer or whatever
Mhm.
you want to call it.
Yeah.
So I needed to get out. I need to get out of South Dakota, and I don't like winters and cold weather and all that stuff. So I moved to Iowa, and I went to school in Iowa, which is not much better. So
Just more corn over there, huh?
yeah, just more corn. I went to this private school, Loris College in Dubuque. Um, yeah, I just like played soccer there. That was like the main reason I went. Was to just play soccer. And yeah, I mean, like, it was better. Like, at the end of the day, like, getting out of my hometown, I think, was like the most important thing. Like,
Yeah.
I experienced a lot of growth in terms of just like knowing what else is out there, or just experiencing what else is out there by like just getting out.
Yeah.
And then kind of, not to like cut it short, and you can ask more questions on this, but basically, freshman and sophomore year, I was in like a media studies program. Well, all 4 years, but it was just like super general. So a little bit of screenwriting, a little bit of like learning how to edit. They were a big news program, and they've like won a lot of awards for like news programs. But I can't stand news. I don't really find it like creatively interesting or fulfilling in really any way. But I know a lot about it. I know a
Yeah.
lot about how it's like made and all that stuff. But yeah, and what I kind of found, just because I guess maybe it's that internal drive again. I I just like started searching up stuff on YouTube and like learning that way to go more in depth into these different topics.
Mhm.
So like full on probably like YouTube University. I don't really know how much I learned, other than just like maybe knowing what's out there
Yeah.
to like do. And then like as the years went on, I kind of like started blowing off classes to like take on clients and stuff.
Oh man.
Yeah, it was kind of crazy. I even got I even like the head of like the department even like threatened to like not let me graduate if I didn't show up.
Oh man.
Yeah, it was wild.
So what'd you study like whenever you went there? Like, did you go for like specifically like media stuff?
Yeah. So the program was called Media Studies. Like, it was
Gotcha.
just like unbelievably broad.
Hmm.
And I was like, I crave like depth, and that was the issue. Was it was really hard to keep my attention, because like I would pick these things up, and I had my own camera at that point. I had my own laptop, so I could like go and put these things into action right away, and it just like I wanted more out of it, and I didn't want to like do news.
Yeah.
So, and there wasn't really an outlet for that. So I kind of had to go like on my own little journey.
Yeah. It was basically like carving the tip of the iceberg.
Yeah. Without a doubt. For sure.
Gotcha. And then like after you did that, you went on your own. Did you finish school?
Yeah. So looking back, one of the main reasons I stayed was just like for like parents, grandparents,
Hmm.
just like,
For sure.
because it makes them nervous, because like they came from a world where like you know having a piece of paper that shows that a lot about a specific topic would usually open a lot of doors.
Hmm.
um Even early on, I knew that that was just kind of like not true. And unfortunately, especially in our career, if you're a
Yeah, for sure.
doctor or in some other
Uh-huh.
lane, there's you absolutely need a degree for a lot of those jobs. But in our case, I really, really, really wanted to drop out, and like, especially when you're coming up, like, money is just always top of mind. uh and so like, I'm paying for this private education. I don't really feel like it's worth it. I was over soccer at that point, even though I did play all 4 years. It's just, I was just like burnt out, and didn't um I knew that that wasn't my future, so I
Hmm.
just like kind of didn't want to dedicate any more time to it. um but yeah, so like, I just kind of started branching out, and like, for example, like the first time, I like, this is my first client ever. So you know, as a college kid does, we go out to bars.
Yeah.
And I was, you know, so this is, I think this is like end of my sophomore year or something like that. I had this like an iPhone 6S, and I was definitely feeling myself that night. And like some artist was playing at like this underground bar, and I decided to like make a video with my phone. And so I literally like I went straight from the bars, like still buzzing, and went home and just like immediately started editing and like sent it to him at like 6 in the morning. And they didn't respond for like a couple days, but then like they found the video and they were like, "Yo, this is great. Next time, bring your camera." And I was like, "Say less." So,
That's cool.
so yeah. And that was just like a local like dubstep artist. Like I
Gotcha.
don't know, just some grungy, grungy stuff. But like I don't know. At the time, you know, it I had the bug, you know, to
Yeah.
just like anything that like I don't know, sparked that creativity and
Mhm.
like made me want to explore other areas of like technical skills and whatnot. Uh, was just like I would just follow that, whatever that urge was or whatever
Yeah.
that like creative idea was. I would just chase it. Um, and yeah, so that and that snowballed into me driving to so a lot of the kids at the school were from Chicago or the Chicago area, and so it snowballed into me getting introduced to a lot of like nightclub owners and
Yeah.
marketers and promoters in the Chicago scene. And so like by my senior year I was probably putting in like 80 hours a week between school, like practice, like for soccer, and then drive. I would drive to Chicago every single weekend. So I would go there, like shoot, whatever, come back, like, or I would do it in the same night. So I would go 3.5 hours to go shoot. I would shoot there for like an hour and then drive 3.5 hours back, get home at like 5 in the morning, sleep for a couple hours, go to class, go to practice, and then after practice, I would edit till whenever in the morning, and yeah, and then I would just do it again the next weekend, um, to the point where like there were some of my professors were like, this is great, keep doing this, you have clients, you can. They were even allowed, like this one professor who was super cool, he would allow me to use my clients videos as projects.
Oh,
So I
that's
was
so
kind of just
sweet.
like, yeah, getting paid, you know, pennies on the dollar, but it was something, you know. And I actually, what's funny is the other thing is during this whole time I'm listening to podcasts like nonstop. Specifically, this podcast for anyone that is familiar, it was called Black with No Cream. It was
Oh, dude,
started by
100%. I listen to that all
dude.
the time.
No way, that's so
Yeah.
sick. Yeah, yeah. So like I literally I've listened to every single episode like multiple times. Like I've known of Ben Haggerty for forever.
No kidding.
Just because like he was from like he was from a couple hours away from where I was, so there was a bunch
Mhm.
of people in Dubuque that knew who he was or were friends or like, you know, acquaintances, and so that kind of like continued to fuel the fire in terms
Yeah,
of
yeah. I think the
like
first podcast that I
knowing
heard
what
from him
else.
was the one with oh man, what's uh, he's the guy with the chain smokers.
Oh
Is
yeah,
there
Danilo.
Yeah, Danelle.
Yeah,
Danelle. That was
Danilo.
the first one
Yeah,
that I saw. I actually
that's
stumbled
tight.
on a YouTube video one time because I was doing more like
Yeah.
research before I even started
Hmm.
this. I was like, okay, like, is there anything that's like with creatives, or is it like, just artists and stuff? And then I found
Yeah.
him, and he did like the whole like in the field type of video, and like, dude,
Yeah.
this guy's perfect. And then I listened through to the entire thing, and it was kind of interesting. And then I got some ideas off of that I've implemented into mine, and that's so
Nice.
funny, man.
No, dude, I learned so much about the music industry, like before I had even like entered the scene. Like, I knew that you have to wear stage black and like that you're there to like, you know, just put the artist in the best light, and I don't know, just being respectful and like being personable, being able to hang out with an artist and not be weird, stuff like
Yeah.
that. was all stuff that I learned and like took note of like way before I was even in a position to like apply those things. So
Yeah.
I owe a lot to that podcast, to
Oh,
be honest with you.
100%. No, I completely agree with that. Man, that's so funny.
Wow. Yeah, it's wild. And that's how I met a lot of creative friends as well. So like you probably know Kaiser Cunningham.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
So
yeah, yeah.
like him
He's
and I are
cool.
tight. We've been we connected in the Black with No Cream like Facebook group.
No kidding.
Yeah, yeah, and we've been like DMing ever since. We've worked on a couple projects together as a result. So yeah.
Oh, that's so cool. I met Kaiser.
Mm-hmm.
I was in charge of a festival out in Arizona, and he was touring with an artist at the time. And we got to talking, and he said that he was like under some like management or something, and we got to talking and everything. And he's a really really cool guy, man. And the fact that
Yeah,
he's like,
yeah.
where he's like from Wyoming or something.
I don't know exactly where he's from. I just know he has like a pretty wild story,
Yeah,
and
it's pretty
it's
interesting.
pretty cool to see where he's at right now
Yeah,
for sure.
and yeah, he was such a great guy, man. And
Yeah,
that's how we
100%.
connected. And then he told me about other creators and everything. And yeah,
Yeah,
that's so cool.
definitely, dude, definitely.
So before you did your stuff in college, like before you got that
hmm
interest, was there anything else like before that really sparked your mind to pick up a camera?
hmm Yeah, so I mean, growing up, I was like a really big drawer and like sketcher.
Hmm.
So I would do like everything from like I would have multiple hardnesses of lead, um, and like erasers and like blenders and all that stuff. All the classic like art class
Hmm.
stuff. But I was doing that like before high school. In elementary school, I won a couple like wildlife drawing contests with like the Wild Turkey Federation and. I got really young somehow. Like my mom had this like I don't know baby blue like Canon like point and shoot camera, and I like climbed all the way up in a tree to take a photo of like a bird's nest, like a robin's nest, and then my grandma submitted it to a magazine and it got published, and I was like, okay,
That's
this is
crazy.
weird. Yeah, so I don't know, maybe I wasn't like you know like I didn't grow up thinking, oh, I'm gonna be a videographer or anything like that. It was more just like I was just interested in the visual arts from
Hmm.
everything from like texture to compositions,
Yeah.
color. As you can probably tell from my Instagram, like I really enjoy like bright, vibrant
Hmm.
colors. Um, uh, I was like, okay, cool. Like I like painting, I like drawing. Um, but maybe it's a little bit less time consuming if I would just take a photo of something. Little did I know. So I got into it was like a graphic design ish class in high school, and I will never forget this teacher honestly like kind of opened up like an entire world for me. He went, listen, I don't care about like grades or any of that. Like you all have A pluses, like no matter what. I just want you to go in to this class, create something, learn something that you're proud of, and then, find ways to apply that and express yourself in like a way that, is fulfilling to you.
Hmm.
Um, and prior to that, like I did not have a very good relationship with school. I've always wanted to drop out. I've always had issues with teachers. I've always had great grades. That wasn't the issue. It was like it wasn't interesting to me.
Yeah.
Like I don't know. um, and yeah, so that kind of opened up the doors in terms of just like I can just create stuff for fun and like not have to worry about a grade, and
Hmm.
that kind of just like fueled the passion. And then when I was looking for colleges, number one priority was still sports, but I did look for like some sort of graphic design or media
Yeah.
program that I could at least test out and just like see, okay, is this really for me type of thing.
Hmm. So why out of like going back to like picking out a college? So why'd
Mm.
you pick out Iowa instead of like like a known college that is big on the arts and media, like somewhere in like in LA or New York or something?
Right. So, well, first off, didn't even know those programs existed at that point. Like, I don't know. Coming from South Dakota, I another thing that I kind of felt the whole time was this like idea, and maybe it was all in my head, but I kind of felt like isolated. I
Hmm.
felt like there, and maybe other creatives kind of relate to this, maybe in their hometown, is like there wasn't anyone else that wanted to do the stuff that I wanted to do. There was no one taking sports as serious as I was. There was no like, well, there's a couple, but like it was few and far in between, and let alone being friends with that person or whatnot. It's definitely kind of it's a journey of like self-discovery and just like trying to figure out how to kind of get yourself like unstuck, or maybe surround yourself with other people that kind of have the same mindset.
Yeah.
And I just could not find that in South Dakota. And to be frank, like the creative stuff was still on the back burner at that point in my life.
Yeah.
It wasn't really a priority. I was like, we'll get through college. We'll see where the sport thing goes. If it ends up going further, great. If not, um, then I'll figure something out. I'll go the creative route or
Hmm.
whatever. Um, and but yeah, there was just some crazy talented kids out there, and right away I was just like, yeah, I'm not taking this any further than
I think that's
college.
how it goes in
So we're just gonna
college,
have
man.
fun with it.
I think that's
Yeah,
how it
yeah.
always goes. Like you show up to college and you're like, oh man, I was the best in high school, and then you show up and like,
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
nope, there's like 500 people that are better than you. Uh,
Yeah, yeah.
in academics and athletics too.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, yeah. You really got to find that like one thing, or maybe one or two things that you're good at, but also like passionate about.
Hmm.
I feel like.
Do you have like any background in music, or like is anybody in your family like musically inclined?
Um,
Where did that interest come from?
for me, music was more of like a feeling thing, an
Hmm.
emotional thing. I would usually use music to cope, or to, just stay motivated, or just like keep up the good vibes or whatever.
Yeah.
So music was just always something that I just kind of felt internally. Anytime a song like that I really enjoyed like spoke to me, I was like, I thought about it more than most. I feel like, I don't
Hmm.
know. I was just like, this is profound for some reason. I don't know why or what, but yeah. So like, it's just always been like this passion for what music can do to an individual, or do for you, internally, whether that's like relating to someone, whether that's, like you're in love or you're heartbroken or whatever it is. I think music is just like so powerful on that side of things, in terms of helping people connect through, I don't know, shared emotions or something
Yeah,
like that.
for sure. And it doesn't even matter the genre of music. It's just all
Yeah,
around.
yeah. I actually, that's so funny. Like, I'm a big Machine Gun Kelly fan. Maybe not so much his like older music,
Hmm.
but, well, I mean, his older music I was into at
Yeah.
that time period, but more so I just respect him as an artist. And when he recently just won the two People's Choice Awards, and his caption was, "There's only two types of genres: good music and bad music." And like, I could not agree with that more, in terms of just like, if I like the music, I don't care what genre it is. Like, I just don't. Like,
Hmm.
it doesn't matter to me in any way, shape, or form. If it speaks to me, I think it's good.
Yeah. Yeah. Do you know his creative guy, Sam?
Yeah, dude. Oh my gosh,
Man,
I've been
he is
following his journey.
crazy.
Yeah, 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 yeah. He's yeah. I'm trying to figure out. Oh, he was on the 505 podcast.
Ah,
Um,
okay.
and so I was able to kind of like learn a little bit more about his story, but I had known about him before that, so I was like
Hmm.
stoked that they got him on, because I was just
Yeah.
like, I need to know more about this kid,
Yeah.
because he
He
just
is a
does
crazy cat,
everything
man.
with, yeah, 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 one hundred
Oh man.
percent.
So after you discovered your passion for music, and then you wanted to be more creative out of college. I guess, was college really an influence to moving to Chicago, or did you have other like options?
So, I didn't set out as like Chicago being, like I never thought, oh yeah, I want to move to Chicago ever. But I was listening to just a bunch of podcasts from other creatives like Chris Doe and obviously the Black with No Cream podcast and whatnot. And I was just trying to like learn as much as I could about like the business side, networking, as well as like the technical stuff. And so I kind of just, because of my proximity, like Chicago was the biggest market that I had access to. I just like started, because I was going there every single weekend and stuff. That's where my network kind of just started to develop. Kind of outside social media. Social media, is kind of separate but connected to the IRL network. But yeah, that was the main reason. Is just like I graduated in 2020. Unfortunately.
Yeah.
Which was a horrible time too, because like I was like, oh yeah, I'm gonna go full time, and
that's about the time that I decided to go full time too.
Yeah,
yeah.
It was rough. I wouldn't have done that had I known how hard it was gonna be. Yeah, make sure you don't quit your job until you have like a stable income. If you're listening,
yeah, 100%.
I didn't have a stable income to begin with, so going full time was, to be quite honest, a very bad, like not a smart decision.
But you're at the point where you wanted to like bet on yourself.
Yeah, exactly. And I knew that you have to do that. Kind of almost to the point of like delusion, for a long time, my fiance, she didn't quite understand or see like what I saw. And then obviously, there is a literal point of delusion in terms of just like, I'm going to make it. I'm going to go do this or that, or, I'm going to make enough money to like actually, make a living, even though, I've never done any of those things before. I was determined in my ability to learn how to. And, I think at the end of the day, that's like needed. But at the same time, I think my expectations were skewed as well in terms of like how fast I could do it. And like make it a viable like way to live. And so, shout out to my fiance I literally probably put her through hell for like, from 2020 to probably 2022, 23, as we were kind of getting out of the pandemic. So yeah, shout out to her.
And then whenever you moved there, was it always, like currently, like you do a lot of stuff with EDM artists. Was it always like that's the route that you wanted to take, or was it like you found something but like it didn't work out and you tried this and it did?
Got you. To be honest, it was never like a choice. Yeah, it was never a choice of like I want to go into like this genre. It's just like all the people in my immediate circles at the time in college had, there was either aspiring artists or, like they were like DJs that were like in the city, in the scene, that knew a lot of people. And they were the ones that were frequenting like a lot of the venues that I wanted to like shoot at. So it wasn't ever really a choice. I'll always say that I came up on EDM. I listened to EDM growing up, but I listened to a lot of other genres too. So I think it was just kind of like right time, right place in terms of like that community was able to kind of support me, supporting them, in a way. I don't think there was really any point where I was like, EDM is all I want to do. Yeah. And like right now I'm actually at a point in my career where that's what you know me as. And I don't want that. I want to be known as a multi-genre, like overall music industry creator
Uh-huh.
that has worked with a lot of names from a lot of different corners of the industry. So that's like the direction I'm really trying to go now. And that's like what I constantly put out.
Mm-hmm.
For example, like Kaiser and I recently just like worked on some like little stuff for Nate Smith.
Yeah.
Um, and yeah, so just trying to get my hands on other genres, or just like be around other teams that are working in other genres.
Do you remember what the first gig you shot at, or where it was at, or for who
Mhm.
it was for? Once you, I guess, fully moved into Chicago.
Yeah, let's see. Honestly, so my good homie Flynn Collins, his artist name is Flaninho. He's a bass house artist. Flaninho is it's it's inspired by soccer, which is amazing. Is a big part of our lives. So he was actually on my team, and he started out by like just like helping a group of DJs and EDM artists like market and book different gigs and stuff. And then eventually he started making his own music, and so we were kind of on this journey together in the city, and he introduced, like, I owe a lot to him in terms of like him introducing me to a lot of the people in my network and like the people that I know now. Uh, and so yeah, I would say probably the first gig was like for him at probably, oh man, there's this one place called Trophy Room. It's called Trophy Room, and it's just like your classic top 40 like
Some
hip
good old
hop
nightclub.
club, yeah,
Yeah.
nightclub in Chicago. Like it doesn't even exist anymore. um yeah, like the pandemic, like put an end to that really quick.
Uh-huh.
A lot of clubs actually, unfortunately. um and so yeah, that's probably like the real early ones. um but what's funny is I had been shooting in all of those places prior to even moving.
Mm-hmm.
So I was like, at that time, I was also like really trying to like shoot venues that I'd never done before. So early, when shows were like just starting to come back in 2021, I was able to like shoot like Aragon Ballroom, which is like a historic venue here in Chicago. So that's probably like the most memorable show since moving there, like in the early beginning.
Yeah.
Um,
Have you
yeah,
ever
that
done
was
anything
like
at Joe's
Joe's on
on Weed
Weed
Street?
on Weed
Yeah.
Street. Yeah, that's across from Prism, right?
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
So a bunch of like Texas guys, a lot of country guys go out there. That's like
Oh, dude,
the
yeah,
only place to play at in
yeah,
Chicago.
yeah.
And normally
That
it's like
actually,
a
yeah.
like a filler day, like a Thursday or Friday that they'll
Hmm.
just if they're passing through, they'll do a show out there. I've heard that the owner's really nice. They do like
Yeah.
pizzas and everything before the show.
Mhm.
Um,
Oh, dude,
but
yeah. Joe's was we actually, my buddy Sherm in the booth, or Sherm is his like artist name. Um, he, him and I, we basically put together a St. Patty's Day show at that venue. So we worked with the venue, and like we had two sponsors. We had Jeffson's Malort and Old Style. Uh, they like sponsored it, and then we created like an entire lineup. We created a mini doc. We did like this entire social campaign
mhm.
to try and like sell tickets and stuff. So yeah,
It's a
that was
great
like the
venue
one
too.
and only place. Yeah, yeah. Oh
Yeah.
yeah, the venue is fantastic.
Yeah,
Yeah,
you can
yeah.
tell that guy puts in like, like he puts in the effort to not just like
Mhm.
be like, one of those like bar and grill types of venues, but
Mhm.
like it's he you can see that he puts effort to make it into a music venue, something that's made
Yeah.
specifically for shows.
Yep.
And
Yep. Yeah,
that's
and he was
that's what
very
I've heard of.
hospitable too.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
So going into that, I want to talk about your creative style because
Hmm.
you have some pretty interesting ways to do stuff. Because like not
Hmm.
only are you a videographer, photographer, but you're also a director, from what I
Yeah.
recall.
Yeah. Yep. Yep.
So how does that all play out? Like what what do you find that, as a creative that, does multiple stuff, like, like a hybrid shooter, like photos, videos, what is something that you would like, that you prefer to do more than the other?
Yeah. So the way I think about it is first is what medium. So like what medium really gets you like fired up? For me, it's video. For others, it's going to be photo specifically. For others, it might be like just I don't know, motion graphics, or like
Special
Photoshop is
effects
like
and stuff.
yeah, yeah. Um, so yeah, it's essentially it's so I knew that like video was like my main thing. I've always done photos, but it's never been, I don't know, as interesting to me for whatever reason.
Hmm.
From there, because of like me listening to different podcasts and like kind of being around the EDM and DJ scene in Chicago, that kind of just naturally flowed into doing like event recaps, artist
Yeah.
recaps, and stuff like that. Which eventually, I stuck with, and then eventually that turned into like festivals and one-off shows with artists and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And so then kind of like my thing became like the live event space. So like I
Hmm.
was just like, I can make recaps. That's my favorite thing to do. And I just kind of just describe myself as just like I'm a live event videographer. At the time, that's like how I describe myself.
Yeah.
Um, I was always like very personable with the artist that I would be working with at the time, and I'd be like,
Hmm.
hey, content will always be better when you're interacting with the camera,
Oh,
because
100%.
when people are like see you looking at them through the screen, they feel a certain like connection. If you are playing with the camera, uh, that kind of symbolizes like maybe you know me or I know you, and it's just kind of like a warmer, more engaging way to create content.
Hmm.
So I was always kind of like coaching these artists to just like perform in front of the camera, and like
Yeah.
maybe we'd set up like certain things or create some sort of storyline for the weekend or for that show or
Yeah.
whatever. And yeah, that kind of like all led into directing. And so kind of as I've broken into like the festival space and started just kind of being on some of these larger crews where there was people that I was, working with or alongside that were only directing,
Hmm.
or maybe directing and doing a little bit of shooting or whatnot. But then I was like, oh, that's another option too, is like, I don't even have to shoot if I don't want to. Obviously I enjoy doing that, but,
Yeah.
I think it was just kind of one step after the other as I was progressing, as I was like meeting new people and developing my skills. I kind of just like started to discover that there's these other roles and like ways that you can still be in the music industry and
Hmm.
a creative without having to like be at a nightclub at 4 a.m.
Yeah.
or 3 a.m. or whatever. Um, and yeah, I like my sleep. So,
I think we all
but I
do
like
as
music.
creatives.
Yeah. So it's like, yeah, exactly. And it's just like, I don't know, like at a certain point, especially in these last couple years, I'm extremely grateful for like all the opportunities and stuff. But it is a lot. It's very physically and mentally demanding, especially if you're on the road for a long time. And I was just kind of thinking, like, man, in my 30s, in my mid 30s, like, do I want to be doing that, or do I want to be kind of more in a director's role where I can, flex like my storytelling abilities and maybe have a little bit more control over like the schedule and the
Yeah.
project, and like maybe even like the people I work with and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And I don't know, for some reason, creatives we're kind of obsessed with control for some reason. Um, but at the same time, you kind of need a certain level of control in order to bring an idea to life. So
For sure.
it's kind of like a balance in terms of, how, like, collaboration versus, sticking to your guns.
So you were talking about working with teams. I know you do a lot of stuff with Kursza. How did that happen? And before you start that, can you explain what Kursza does for people that have no idea what they are?
Yeah. So Kursza is a collective of creatives. There's three founders. You got Chris Yoder, you have James Winterhalter, and then you have Joe Larkin, J Lark, as we like to call
J
him.
Lark.
He's the homie. All of them are the homies. But essentially, they have this. They're a collective that kind of just has this similar. Everyone that they have on the team has a very similar mindset in terms of just like we talked about, vibes, like just personalities. Lack of ego. All of those things that are like really important to a lot of our creative processes. And then on top of that, they have like their main core team. And so every individual creator has kind of their own set of clients, and, their own networks and whatnot. But the power in the collective is like when you combine those things and you combine all the resources that everyone else has as well, then you're able to really, really elevate work. And I think, coming
y'all
up as like
freaking good.
Yeah, without a doubt, man. Like I knew I've been following Kursza since it was established. So it's wild to even be able to say that I am like a core team member, and that like I get to. It's just no, it's wild. Like we talked about Danilo. I've been on a couple of jobs with him as well, and it's just like it's so mind-boggling to go from like this nobody on the internet who's just like was paying attention to now like I have these guys' phone numbers and like I can hit them up like about whatever. It doesn't even have to be about work. It could just be like just talking shit or whatnot. So and then so we have our core team, and then there's a much larger network outside the core team, but the core team just gets priority in terms of like inbound leads and all that stuff. And then they're extremely supportive in terms of like, let's say I want to go after a specific client or get a certain type of work. They'll help, put together pitches and all that different stuff. A lot of the members have just unbelievable amounts of knowledge and experience. And like, I've been able to lean on that. And it's just been like, we talked about earlier in the episode about like just surrounding yourself with similar, people who have similar mindsets.
Yeah.
This is like that on steroids. Like I'm a true believer of like,
yeah, it really is.
I'm a true believer of like, if you can surround yourself with people that are like-minded, that, have similar goals and attitudes, like the sky's the limit, and you will help each other like learn faster because, and I've heard this on a lot of podcasts where like groups of creatives, when one person in the group makes a mistake, now the other people in the group will not make that mistake because they're all learning from each other and like helping each other elevate. And that is just like it. You don't realize how powerful it is until you're in a situation like that. So I would say to anyone that's listening, that's a creative, that, it might not seem like it, but I'm an extreme introvert. Like to give you an idea, I can sit in a pitch black room for 8 hours and be unbelievably happy with like just my computer and my timeline. Like, and I have like a very small social media. So like if I'm in a social setting, and I have to interact with people a bunch, like I get drained really, really fast. So, and I'm sure, and I feel like a lot of creatives are like that. So
Pretty
like
much,
if
yeah.
you are, if you are like that and you're thinking like, or maybe you do feel isolated and whatnot, I just highly, highly recommend that you try and find some way to get to, whether that's a Facebook group, whether that's just DMing people, commenting on people's posts, you know, kind of like befriending people on the internet, or, you know, it's real life stuff. Like I would never be where I am today had I not made the choice to move to Chicago. So like, you
Mm-hmm.
know, and like a lot of times it does take something like that to kind of jumpstart significant growth. So yeah, if you are like feeling stuck or isolated, um, surrounding yourself, finding a way to surround yourself with people that have similar, you know, goals and whatnot is
Yeah.
extremely, extremely valuable.
And it's kind of cool the way uh, what we talked about before we even started this podcast is the way that I found you was through a social media post, because I was
Mm,
going through, you know, trying to find more inspiration to, you know, amp up my style or change some things that I do differently to improve on myself. And
mm,
I found one of your posts about using sound effects and sound designs, and that was kind of like the start of like, all right, so this guy is actually pretty cool. And then I looked at all your other work, all your other recaps. I'm like, oh my gosh, this guy is insane. And it's cool to see how you you provide awesome content, you know, for artists, but you also provide content for, you know, your other creators. It's very very helpful tips. Like another one that I saw was and this I actually took this personally, and I ran with it, was the overnight turns. So,
ah,
oh yeah, that's something that I learned from what you posted, plus another friend that was also doing it, and I took that into consideration. And now, like all my turn-ins are within, you know, 12 to 16 hours of, you know, the actual show itself, and that's one thing I want to thank you for, because like it really
yeah.
inspired me. It really did.
Dude, that's awesome. Dude, yeah, of course. I mean, like that's why I do it, dude. Like I like coming up and like trying to navigate the music industry specifically. There's no one like there's the classic you know, all filmmakers like know who Peter McKinnon is, right? Like
100%.
but he's kind of more on the side of like commercial freelance and like commercial photography, or you know, just like passion photography and video and stuff like that. But specifically in music there's like a lot of nuances, and so and different like ways of like, you know, talking about things, or you know, even the content that we make has to be
Mm-hmm.
created specifically with, you know, certain things in mind regarding the artist or the way the industry kind of like operates. And so I was like, there's no resources out here. And over time I realized, oh, that's why no one in music has like a popping YouTube channel, because they're all like barely able to keep up with the stuff that they're doing now,
Yeah.
barely able to get enough sleep, and like, you know, barely being able to like hit deadlines because just things are moving so fast. Like that's when I realized like, oh, this is why there's not a lot of resources out there specifically about these types of creatives. So like it's going to be a lifelong journey of mine to like continue to try and provide value to those that do want to go down this path.
Mm-hmm.
um yeah, and like I really do like when the post you're talking about specifically, that was like a couple years ago when I was putting out content like pretty consistently, and
Mm-hmm.
just trying to find out what I liked and didn't like about the different content that I would create. Um, but I've kind of fallen off since, fallen off on that type of content, especially since like just joining Kursza, um, and even before that, when like at the end of the day, you have to make money to pay your bills. And the content that I make, that, you know, as helpful as it is, doesn't make money. So I really had to prioritize the client stuff. And so I'm trying to kind of like figure out a way or like a rhythm where I can continue to put out
Yeah.
educational stuff in addition to the client work. That's
Yeah, and
that's the
it's really cool.
battle.
It's like I said, it's so inspiring. I learned a lot. I sent it to a couple of friends too, and
That's
then they look
awesome.
at all your other stuff, like all the Lollapalooza stuff, and they're like,
Yeah.
I did not know that this guy does stuff for Lollapalooza. How did that even happen?
I was in the Black with No Cream Facebook group, and this woman, her name is Katie Golick, I think is her name. She's gonna be so mad that I butchered that uh, if she even sees it. But anyways, she at the time was doing some producing for some YouTubers out of Utah, and she was just looking for editors. And like middle of the pandemic, I was like, yo, I need work. And so the only work that there was like a lot of remote editing jobs. And so I like put in my information, and she reached out, and it all kind of like worked out. All during this whole time though, I had no idea. Like, I thought that this is what she did. I thought she just produced for YouTubers and like, just kind of like managed that side of things. But I come to find out that she's a live music photographer, and
Oh,
has been on the Lala team for years, and I had no idea. And then all of a sudden, after about a year and a half of working with her, she's like, "Hey, so like, there's a possibility that Lala comes back. Would you want to be a PA on the photo team?" And I was like, "What?" I didn't know. I thought you only did like YouTube stuff. She's like, "No, that's not what I do at all." And she's been on tours with like Hoyser and some other big artists.
no kidding.
Um, and I had no idea, absolutely no idea. Oh, Sydney. Her name is Sydney. Oh God, yeah, Sydney Golick. She's amazing. Definitely like search her up on Instagram. She's amazing. Um, but yeah, so then I was a photo PA on the photo team. So I would I don't know, get people food, make sure I would like run golf carts to like make sure photographers were at certain stages at the correct times. Um,
Oh, the lifestyle.
yeah, just like everything, yeah, just anything and everything that team needed, I would help with. And then the lead of that team was Charles Reagan, he's an absolute legend, one of the nicest human beings
Yeah.
ever. And he would allow me to go shoot in between times that I was needed. So at that point, I would like create a schedule for myself during the day of like when I would help people, and then when I would go shoot, and then when I'd help people and I'd go shoot. And like I managed to cover like I covered like, oh man, I covered like so many different sets, like Marshmallow, Post Malone, and like a bunch of other sets that like. And at the time, like I was just like blown away at like the size and scale of the festival and all that stuff. So I was kind of just in this, I don't know,
Yeah.
this like really unique point in time. And then got asked to come back the next year, but they knew that I really, really enjoyed video. So I got paid to do video on the photo team, which was wild.
What?
Yeah, it was crazy. And so basically, we came up with this idea where I would try and capture video versions of the photos that would be posted. So
Uh,
I would try and create these. So like, I would follow like or I'd like kind of piggyback off of like whatever photographer was shooting that specific set. And then I would try and create kind of this like slow motion moment.
mhm.
Um, and it turned out being amazing. And like we had a lot of engagement, and like a lot of the artists ended up posting those videos and stuff. So it was really, really cool to see. And then I got asked to be on the video team the next year, which I kind of felt bad because I was like, oh, I don't want to betray like the photo team that they gave me all these opportunities. But like they're understanding. They know
Mhm.
that they're freelancers, I'm freelancers. Like we all have our different passions and things that we want to do, and like I think the worst thing that you could ever do is like as a colleague or friend or coworker is to like someone is showing interest in going a certain direction with their career, their creative, and like I don't think you should ever like try and stop someone or like try and make them feel bad for, like
Yeah, exactly.
even if it
Limited.
puts you in a tough spot. Like
Yeah.
at the end of the day, like we need to support each other, and like our our dreams and our visions for like what we want to do in our
Mhm.
careers. I think that's really important. So like like I said, Charles Reagan is an absolute legend. Love you, dude. And yeah, like, so without him, like I wouldn't even be on the video team at all. And
Mhm.
without Sydney for sure. So yeah, just a wild, like,
That's a
roller
wild
coaster
journey.
of like how I
Yeah.
got on the team. And yeah, and then I did, so I was the daily editor the first year on the, video team. And then
How
I came
fast were those
back.
turnarounds?
Oh, dude. Basically, you would edit all day and then all night. So like I would, as footage came in, so dailies are probably, so for anyone that doesn't know what a daily is just a daily recap of that day at the festival. So it's
Mhm.
it's this culmination of all the artists and all the things that happen on that day. Um, and so what you have to do is you have to wait for all the shooters to go out, capture stuff, come back, and then you like start to build out your timeline and go through everyone's footage. And
Oh
a lot of
man.
times you'll have like uh, a team lead who acts as like the director and will be like, this is the vibe we're going for, this is the song we're using, this is like the type of energy that we want or whatever, or these are the type of shots that we're looking for. And so once that's kind of all established, then as footage comes in, I'm going through it, finding the stuff that fits, and then cutting it up. And yeah, I mean, it's a brutal job. Like, you're not gonna go to sleep. You're gonna be the last one to go to sleep every single time. Like, this year, and everyone approaches dailies different. Some people, are like, they prefer just like nice clean cuts. Nothing too fancy, just like very like clean, like, matching the energy obviously and whatnot.
Yeah.
Um, but me, I don't know, like I always bite off more than I can chew.
Oh
So,
yeah. Let's throw in some like special effects, some 3D
dude,
stuff, some in and
it
outs, and
it gets me into
it's
trouble a lot.
insane.
It gets me into trouble a lot. More often than not,
They're like,
I'm
all right, man, you need to chill
apologizing
out just a
for.
little bit.
Well, it's more so because events are all time based, and
Uh huh.
so like when the client wakes up in the morning, they need to have that link in their
Exactly. Yep.
in their messages. So like this past year, I don't think I went to bed before 9 a.m. all 4 days. Uh,
Holy crap.
but at the end of the day, like, for example, the first year I did dailies, like, like after day 2 recap, like, I had some buddies on the Hulu team. So there's a lot of different teams. I was on like the core Lollapalooza media team, and then there's like a Hulu team, and then there's a live stream team.
Mhm.
They usually don't interact. But one of my buddies who was on the Hulu team said that they used one of my recaps as a reference video for the type of content that they wanted to create that weekend. And I was like, no way, that's so sick. And like, I don't know, it was just like nice little like creative like fuel
Yeah.
in those moments. So like that kind of the success of the dailies last year kind of inspired us to continue to like really try and push ourselves this year. Shout out to Menegro. He's an absolute legend, like in the live event scene. He works with Kursza, Alive Covers, and a bunch of other companies. And yeah, he just like travels the world basically 365 days a year, and he's probably one of the best Movi like red shooters that like I've ever met or seen footage from. Like, it's crazy. Like, I've edited footage from him at festivals in like
How big
in
was that size
the size of like the
of?
files.
Yeah.
Oh, dude, we just shot Lost Lands last weekend, and we did 16 terabytes with only
Jesus,
three
man.
reds. Yeah, yeah,
Oh
it's
my
wild.
gosh.
It's wild. But yeah, like Monegro, he's like the lead at for Lala, the video team, and he's been just like so influential in terms of like pushing myself to to really make like the best possible
Hmm.
recaps. So yeah, just like grateful for that experience. And yeah, like Lala still to this day is like hands down, like even all the other festivals I've ever worked, like Lala is by far my favorite. So just, and I love multi-genre stuff. Like
Oh yeah.
it brings such a unique group of people and artists, and a lot of times you discover new people, and like yeah, it's just like really good vibes. So like I enjoy that.
That's so freaking cool, man.
Yeah.
I've seen a festival before. I've been to Austin City Limits a couple times, but
Yeah.
never understood how teams like that work and just turn in so freaking quick. Like an artist would get off stage and then an hour later they'll have like
Hmm.
pictures or like a little
Yeah.
short raw clip that goes up.
Hmm.
And it just blows my mind how teams like that work.
Yeah. I mean, I could walk you through it if you want. Like, I can kind of like walk you through like my experience in terms of like making a deliverable.
Hmm.
Yeah, we'll
Okay.
cover that another time.
Yeah, we'll cover that another time.
Cool. Cool.
I want to talk about your gear for a little bit. I know
Yeah.
you run with a couple of Sonys.
Hmm.
Is it multiple Sonys or just one?
Well, I got laser damage on one of them. I got two Sony
Oh.
A7S3s. One has laser damage. It was the first one I ever bought. Um, Yeah, it's just it's so funny. I see all like these like younger guys like buying all this super expensive gear, and the funny thing is about this expensive gear is you have to know how to take care of it.
Yeah.
Or there's just like little things, little technical things that you have to know about your gear in order to like make sure everything like just like stays clean and like operates to the best that like it can. And yeah, one of those things I did not understand is how delicate a camera sensor is. So,
Yeah.
yeah, I would like go in and like clean my sensor with like a lens brush, but like you should never do that. You should never touch your sensor at all, like other than with like air, and you should
Yeah.
not try and like you
And
can
never
clean it
let a laser
yourself.
touch your sensor either.
Yeah, that too. That too. I didn't realize that you can literally just like you
Oh
can
man.
just throw a couple grand down the drain really fast.
Yo, man.
Yeah, in a fraction of
Uh,
a second.
all right, man. So I think I have time for one more question. I say this. I ask this question to a lot of different people that I've had as guests or just people that I meet on the road. What is something that you would what is some advice that you would give to somebody that wants to get their foot into the creative scene or into the genre or like anything like
Mhm.
just pick up a camera for the first time, because we all have different ways to influence people. Like I said, you influenced me to work on video transitions and next day turnarounds. What is something that you would give to just somebody that is watching or listening that wants to get their foot into doing stuff with music?
Yeah. So at the end of the day, your network is your net worth, and I know that's like such a cliche like quote, but it's so true. Like I've been around some of the most talented like live event like videographers and photographers like in the world, and you know, but I've also been around people, that, are just getting started, but they're in a really interesting position, a position to like prove themselves. And I think one of the reasons why there's so often people in a position that they might not have the experience for necessarily is because of who they know.
Hmm.
And like I think trial by fire is like kind of something that is just kind of like a rite of passage in this industry. So at the end of the day, you kind of just need to find the people that are doing the things that you want to do, befriend them, figure out how to get involved. Maybe not so much asking for advice. I would say you like if I'm starting out, I would more so just try and be, more collaborative in terms of like, hey, instead of like, hey, can I like, instead of like, hey, how do you do this? Is like, hey, I can do this for you if you don't, if this is an annoying task that you always have to do or something like that. And like another thing too is like, you know, it's really easy to like idolize someone, but at the end of the day, we're all humans, and like someday that person could be like your like coworker, like someone that you work alongside. So then idolizing them makes the relationship a little bit odd, because then you might be saying or doing things that like, you know, might kind of like pander to them instead of maybe your creative like ideas and directions. So I would just like highly recommend finding ways to just like, you know, be that cool hang, be that person that can, you know, just like walk in a room, introduce themselves, provide value visually or, you know, through ideas or whatever. And it's just kind of just like being like a good person as well. I think those will get like, those couple things will get you a very, very long way. And then one last little asterisk is, however long you think it's going to take, double or triple it. And that's how long it's actually going to take, you know, unless you're just unbelievably gifted, you know, and right place, right time, which is obviously possible. But I think for the majority of us, it takes a little bit of time to gain that momentum, to meet the right people. And like, you got to think about anyone that you have a relationship with, like a good relationship with, like you probably developed that relationship over years of time.
Yeah.
And so that's like how you have to think about building your business, is like building a relationship with other people that also own businesses.
Awesome. That's a great way to end it off, man. Colton, dude, thank you so much for doing this, man. We've never met, but like it feels like I've known you for like the last 5 years. So
that's so awesome, dude. It's been an absolute pleasure. I really appreciate you having me on, and hopefully we were able to, you know, help some people, and I don't know, provide a little bit of insight.
Yeah, that's the whole plan behind this, man. I just want to help out people, inspire, you know, younger people, and same way with you, and it worked with me. So I guess we're both going, and we're going through the right route, you know.
Yeah, absolutely, man.
All right, guys. So this has been another episode of the Point of View podcast. If you're liking what you're listening to, go ahead and leave us a like and follow us on your streaming platforms. You can follow me on Instagram at travis.fuentes. Colton, you want to plug in your stuff?
Yeah. You can follow me on any platform at Colton Bachar, and yeah.
Awesome. And Colton, I do this thing with all my guests that they pick a song to, you know, end the episode with. You got anything you wanna plug in, or what you've been listening to lately?
Yeah. So there's this really young kid, but he's super talented, kind of up and coming in like the singer like pop scene. His name is Presley Rieger. And this is one of my favorite songs from him. It's called Typical.
Awesome. Yeah, take care, guys.
Peace.
Stop with all your petty little acting. It's not fair, I don't care. Believe me when I say I'm unaffected. There's no hurt, it's not there. And when you beg, it's too hard to look past it. It's your fault, it's your blame. I'm unmoved, I'm unfazed. I know you wish it, but I never felt away. Don't you know I see it coming? Every white lie that you're running, going beg me to be trusted. Just to backtrack like it's nothing. Typical. Why is it always talking, no action? There's no proof, just be quiet. You caught up in my love like you're in traffic. There's no use, I'm not trying. It's a little past the point of detaching. We're not fine, we're not friends. I got walls, ain't no fence. It's like we're never really meant to make sense. Don't you know I see it coming? Every white lie that you're running, going beg me to be trusted. Just to backtrack like it's nothing. Typical. Okay, you want me in your cage. You trying to run me round, but I'm not making that mistake, no. Okay, can't look me in the face. I left you in the dust and I can tell you hate the taste. Don't you know